Hello, hello, it is me. Okay, here we are again. I want to give a trigger warning for today's video because I'm going to be talking about like my situation that I had in the past with a fake dom. It's a very heavy, very graphic story, so if you're easily triggered by essay or like abuse in general, I would advise you to scroll away because those things will be talked about. Um, I never made a video like this, so I don't really know where to start. So bear with me, but a lot of people wanted to. That was my bin. Nice. A lot of people wanted to hear the story of how I first got into kink. So here we are, okay? um, Basically, I don't know where to start, dude. It's anyway. Anyway, when I was 15 years old, I was in a mental hospital. Isn't that a mood? Goddamn. Because I was struggling with my home situation and there was a lot of abuse in my home by my parents, well, my father especially. And I was like in a mental hospital at the time because I was struggling with everything. I was 120 kilos, so my confidence was way down. So anyone who gave me a bit of attention was like holy to me, you know. Well, when I was in that mental hospital, I went outside one day because I was allowed to go outside, and there was this beautiful woman on the parking lot, and she was getting off her bike. I have a thing for bikes, and I have a thing for older women, okay? So yeah, she got off her bike, she took off her helmet, and it was this beautiful, beautiful woman. She was tall, blonde. As if you've seen my previous video, that fits my type. If we look at the physical aspect of my type, and she looked at me and she was like, "Hey," and I was like, "Hello, hello." Like I didn't know what to say. I was 15. You know, I was in awe by this woman, and we started talking, and we ended up like meeting up in the parking lot every week, and we were talking a lot, and she was so sweet, she was so kind. She was 25 years old. That is like a big a big part of the story. Okay, I was 15, she was 25. But I didn't like to go home in the weekends because my situation at home was not good, so she proposed that we would hang out in the weekends, and that is what we did, and it was very fun. So we would ride her bike and we would go have a picnic in the park and stuff like that, and it was like this fresh breath of air, because I was struggling with my mental health, and I started to look forward to the weekends so I could see her. But yeah, we did that for a few weeks, so we got to know each other, and it was fun. And she proposed that I would go to her place in the weekends, because until this point we always met up outside and we did things outside of like a home. Excuse me, I drank coffee, okay, leave me alone. So she proposed that we would go to her place, and I was like falling in love with this woman because she was so fucking beautiful, and she gave me of all people attention. 50-year-old me, I didn't think highly of myself. So we ended up going to her place, and she had mentioned before that she was into kink, but she didn't explain what that meant, and I didn't know what it meant because again, I was 15 years old. But yeah, she was always like, no pressure, we don't have to do anything, blah blah blah. We end up going to her home, and the second the door closed behind me, she was a completely different person. I once again want to give a trigger warning because we are getting into the harder part of the story. She locked the door behind me, so I didn't feel safe. I didn't think anything of it at that point because you know, people lock their doors, what's the big deal, right? But once that lock was closed, she had her way with me. She pushed me up against the wall, started touching me like all over, and I was highly uncomfortable because we there was nothing like that before. We didn't kiss or anything. Like, we hugged when we saw each other, but that was it. Okay. So I oh my god, I didn't expect. Okay, this happened 10 years ago. Okay, so I didn't expect it to affect me this much to talk about it, but I'm sharing my story with you guys, and fuck. Yeah. uh I am blanking out. I am blanking out. So she started touching me, right? And I told her, what is happening? I'm not comfortable with this. And then she did the thing that she would always do whenever she was annoyed with me or whenever I said no. And she had like a handful of rings, like I do. But she had like pretty bulky ones. So they were pretty big. Okay. And she punched me in the jaw. Um, and I didn't know what was happening. So I was like, okay, what the fuck? And she just told me, like, you stepped into my home. Now I get to do whatever I want with you. No conversations about kink or anything. I was a virgin. I never, like, keep in mind, I was 120 kilograms at that point in my life. I wasn't comfortable with people seeing me or with my own body in general. So she told me that I had to comply with everything she did. So I did. Because I didn't feel like I have a choice and there was no one there to help me. And that time she just had her way with me, but nothing kinky yet, because for some reason she drew the line there, you know? So yeah, I was raped that night, which wasn't a good experience. I mean, it's never a good experience, obviously, but yeah, that was something. And I know a lot of people are gonna say, like, why did you keep seeing her after that, blah blah blah. I was so, like, my self-esteem was so low, and there was this beautiful woman giving me attention, and I was like, hey, at least she wants me, you know, because not even my own parents want me. So this is a person who is willing to give me attention in a different way that I'm used to, but it's still attention. And yeah, I kept going back. We haven't even touched the surface. I'm gonna drink some more coffee because this is hard, bro. What the fuck? Anyway, as time progressed, it became like a ritual. You know, we going to her place, her either doing whatever she wants, or I get hit in the jaw with rings. And then every time I would say, no, I don't want this, she would just hit me. And to this day, people cannot touch this side of my face because it brings me back to that moment in time. I also have dreams where I just start to panic in my dream because I'm reliving everything that happens. And apparently I start shaking and I'm very anxious in my sleep. And people sometimes wake me up, and then I'm very, like, I don't know where I am, and I think I am with her in a room, and it just scares the living shit out of me. I guess it's some type of PTSD. But the first time was nothing kink related. And then she told me, you are my submissive now. You're gonna do what I ask from you, and I don't want to hear no. So consent was not her forte, I guess. That was my first experience with kink. Someone telling me what to do, and if I didn't listen, I would get punished in a very horrible way. there, oh my god. Okay, as I told you, I was struggling with my mental health, and she started hitting me in the face, but then things got worse. And when I misbehaved, in her words, she would always try to find other types of punishments, and they would gradually get worse. She one time, because I used to, trigger warning, I used to self-harm a lot. And one day she just, like, I said no. I didn't want something. I don't remember exactly what it was because I don't have a lot of memories from my childhood in general. But she asked something of me and I said no, and she took a knife and she just cut my arm. And she hit a vein, which was not fun because, like, when you hit a vein, blood squirts out like at the rhythm of your heart pace. That was so disgusting. I can't. Anyway, she took me to the hospital because I guess she noticed that it was bad, you know. And we got to the hospital and she told the doctors, oh, she did that to herself. Look at the rest of her arm. She's a self-harmer. She did it herself. So they had to stitch my arm, and that was horrible. I'm gonna go very personal because it's part of the story, but even to this day, excuse me, I have issues trusting people when it comes to sex. And it's not that I'm like a stone top or something, I'm not. But I don't trust everyone well enough to touch me. And there's not a lot people are allowed to do because it might trigger my trauma. And one time my ex, and this is the most, probably the most graphic part of the story, so again, if you're not good with blood or anything, I would advise you to scroll away. One time she was going down on me, you know. I don't even know if I can say this stuff on YouTube, to be honest, but anyway, she was doing that and I didn't see the knife, but all of a sudden I felt an intense pain there. And she had cut off a part of my hoo-ha. So that was horrendous. I am getting so uncomfortable. I'm so sorry, but that happened. I'm not gonna give too much detail because it's not nice, you know. But to this day, very few people are allowed to go down on me because of that. Like, only 2 people have been allowed to do that. That is something I struggle with immensely. Yeah, stuff like that, bro. And, you know, when I finally got out of it, for some reason, kink was still interesting for me. But first of all, the submissive role, even though I didn't get to experience being a submissive because that was straight up abuse and that was not kink. But it didn't seem to fit me. So I was like, maybe I'm a dominant, you know? Maybe that's my role. And I started looking up everything and anything about kink and everything I thought I was interested in. I started educating myself. But the most important thing for me was making people feel safe around me during sex. Well, in general, but especially during scenes and stuff. So I started educating myself and looking up things that interested me. And then I started slowly practicing kink. And then I met my first real girlfriends. And we tested out some stuff and it was very fun, but it really solidified the fact that I am a dominant and not a submissive, and I cannot give up control like that. Like, people are not allowed to tie me up or anything because it triggers my trauma, obviously. Yeah, that was my first experience with kink, and I don't even want to call it kink because it was abuse and nothing more than that. She still haunts me. Mentally, but also physically. Sometimes she once showed up at my apartment when I had just been kicked out of my home. I lived alone, and she showed up one day. She was in my apartment, and no person on this planet scares me except for her. She truly terrifies me. She was in my apartment, and I froze. She ended up tying me up to the bed, and I was able to shoot like a text message to my then bestie, and she called the police. The police came to my home. They had to untie me because I couldn't like get out of the restraints, and they took me to the police station, and I had to give like a full explanation of everything that had happened. Uh, it's fucked. I don't get how people hurt people. You know, I just don't get it. I am a sadist myself, but consent is key. And she just did whatever the fuck she wanted to do and called it kink. And that is the reason I started my TikTok channel, because I have heard a lot of stories from people about fake doms. I've experienced it myself, and it is so dangerous and it is so traumatizing for people. So I try to help through my platform. I try to create a safe space, and I try to educate people on the topic. I know I don't do it as often as I used to because TikTok doesn't really like that type of content, but I try. You guys wanted the story. Excuse me, this is a very short version of the story because it makes me physically uncomfortable. I thought I was going to be able to talk about this longer, but I feel sick. I did go to therapy for it. I am still in therapy. Respect each other's boundaries. Listen to the other person. And yeah, that's all I can say. Consent is key. Communication is key. Don't do anything that might like actually harm the other person. If you do practice kink, and if you do practice like the edgier type of kink, safe words. Very important. And I am rambling and I don't know what to say anymore, but there you have it. That's how I got into the kink community, and that's how I figured out I'm dom. I can't even speak anymore. So yeah, thank you for listening. If you see red flags in doms or subs, run. Because those people can really fuck up your life. Take it from me. 10 years later, I'm still struggling to let people close to me. Yeah. Thank you for listening. I'm sorry that this video is not fun like the rest. But you wanted the story, so here it is. I will try to get more content out so we don't like leave on this note for a long time. But finals are coming up, so I might not be able to make a lot of content in the next couple of months. Doesn't really matter. Again, I'm rambling. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to listen to me. Thank you for the love and support, and I will see you in the next video. Okay, bye.